That's the problem. It becomes not a choice to be a training center or not. In other words, if it's not a choice that students can make. I mean, look at the life of students. If in fact it's no longer becomes a choice to either go into industry or not, then it becomes problematic. That's where the problem starts. When there's
but then we can take it until the point that is it a choice to have a job, a profession, to work?
No. It's a choice to think of your training as training for a job or not.
So do you think that we don't have this choice?
And
I not think about what profession we choose and we go and study and so on.
I'm just saying the problem is that if you don't have a university where both sides of the coin are presented, then it becomes problematic. Because actually you're swaying students into a particular direction.
Yes, but I personally think that actually the problem often is the contrary. I know very many people who came out from the university and they knew only theory and they have no kind of idea how to get to the labor market and how to get a job. So actually, I mean, it's not that clear.
Okay, can I just ask, actually, Angelica, to say something about the industry and how actually it is pervading into the universities? I think that's very important. Can you say something about that, Angelica?
Well, yeah, now that you put me on the spot.
Because it's science.
Yeah, it depends. I understand her. Okay, she has a point there, and I wouldn't be willing to throw everything away without coming up with something better. But I understand where you're coming from, and it is the two sides of the coins, and I believe you can do it if you have the level of awareness and have the right people in the right place. I do understand, and I think training at universities and also at schools have to have something like teaching skills. Okay, you have to be ready to perform a certain job, you need certain services and all of that. So there's a basic level where you just need to be taught skills. And then there's something in addition to that which will foster self-reflection, which will foster critical thinking, understanding political powers, structures, in order to understand how we shape and want to go along in our societies. So that should go along. So what I think what we need is room at the universities for both, and this is where the criticism comes from right now, that at least in not all universities, but many, and especially technical universities like mine, which tend to become the sort of elite universities these days, they have been sort of surrendered to the profit-making dictate to become deliverers for the industries. So we very much produce students who are ready to use for industries, who have the skills that industry wants to have. We have universities, we have other, mine is now in sort of in technical university, other universities who teach humanities and stuff. There is a different clientele of students that comes out there by comparison to ours. Industries, when it comes to technologies and economic profit, are very close to my kind of universities, and basically can even come and say, we need engineers in this particular field, can you give them us? And then they redesign their curriculum and produce these kinds of engineers, okay? And these engineers have never had much time to reflect upon what they do, whether that's right or not, whether they want to go in this direction. They're just being produced. But then there's others where we still have some of that, so I wouldn't want to wipe it all away. And I don't want to wipe away that you need to have certain skills. So I'm not against engineering, but it is that additional room we need to be creative and come up with something totally different and foster critical thinking. That's what I'm missing. So it's, I don't know if that answers anybody's questions.
Questions? Okay.
Trying to figure out how to say this simply. I'm thinking partly of the film Inside Job, which basically implied that education and lots of other things are producing a middle class that's really a slave class to the corporations. And I think what we're seeing globally is there aren't even jobs for the slaves. So I think they're two separate issues, and I think we have to separate them in order to figure out how to derive some value from the current situation. One issue is the preservation of knowledge and passing on skills and thinking and many other kinds of skills. The other problem is the global relationship to a corporate government to which we are indentured. I don't know exactly how it is in Europe, but I know that an enormous issue in the States is the cost of education. It's as expensive to have an education in the States as it is to buy a house. And people get out of that debt at about the same point in their lives, if they do, if they have jobs to pay that debt. So that has to be deconstructed to address any of these questions. The other small piece of this is essentially we're talking about a very tiny elite of the world. So those are really comments, I guess. I'm not sure how to frame them as questions, except that I think we have to parse this apart.
Any other questions you want to? Before they close on the side.
Precisely about technological progress, also to answer, your point of view is extremely pragmatic. We need to acknowledge that in the past 40 years, there have been studies warning us that the industry was leading to a disaster like big oil that we are. And that is not a hippie thing to say, that is the reality. The Club of Rome published, a group of very trusted academics and people that have a position to actually overview and see what was happening, published already in the late 60s documents warning us about where we are and where we are going. And this in environmental issues as well, labor issues as well, on the deregulation, all the track that took the financial system in the last 20 years.